It has been 2 entire weeks since I last did a video on my Minecraft SMP, but why? This is why. This tower contains the commands behind the powers of all 14 SMP members. Everyone has their own unique set of abilities, each custom made. Everyone spawns with 5 lives. Once they run out, they become unable to play on the SMP. They can also craft extra lives using this very expensive custom crafting recipe. Before I begin on what happened on my first day, you may be asking what my powers are. First are the pros. I spawn with an elytra, and I also have speed whenever I have sugar in my inventory. On top of that, using said sugar, I can crouch to charge up a powerful jumping ability. But what are the cons? First is that I can't ever take off my elytra, which means I can't have a chest plate either. And when I don't have sugar, I have hunger. But now that all of the basics are out of the way, this is my first day on the Insanity SMP. I logged on, and the only other player online besides me was my brother Julian. This was because, for some reason, my state does spring break in the middle of March, even though it's technically not even spring yet, so for most people it was still a school night. I started by slowly making my way to the village near spawn. Just before my hunger caused me to starve to death, I made it to the village and grabbed some bread from one of the houses. Julian and I proceeded to ransack the village, install practically everything. After getting all the emeralds we could ever need, Julian offered to be a brave boy and fight the iron golem in return for a sword. It went perfectly. Anyways, to avenge Julian, I dug a 4-block hole into the ground so I could fight against the golem myself. And this is what I get for living in the middle of nowhere. This is what happened during my second and third day on the Insanity SMP, a Minecraft server where everyone has their own custom superpowers and abilities. My powers are based around spawning in with an elytra. I started day 2 off by gathering a bunch of wood before mining with my brother Julian inside of a nearby cave. I started a strip mine and made it all the way to deep slate level before my hunger got so low that I needed to come back up. I didn't get too much from mining, but at least I had a little bit of armor. Julian and I then went outside to work on our own projects. I began to work on building a shop where I would sell oxidized and non-oxidized copper, as well as honeycombs to wax the copper. Around this time was also when another member of the SMP, JBlue, logged on. JBlue's powers are simple and can be explained in one sentence. When JBlue is crouching, he turns invisible, but he loses hunger whilst doing so. Once the sun set, JBlue began protecting me from any mobs that spawned. Though, despite having both Julian and JBlue's company, I began to get a little bored, so I started traveling. I found some sugar cane, which my powers allow me to use the sugar from to get a little speed boost and charge up a high jump. Not too long later, I found a village which had one building at the bottom of the mountain and the rest were on top, where I was able to get some food, and I decided to take a break for the day. On day 3, after a little more traveling, I found a ruined nether portal, but it had nothing valuable that hadn't already been taken besides an okay gold sword. Then a little while later, I found a shipwreck which was on land. I went over to see if there was a chest inside, and I found one. It just wasn't the chest I was expecting. Completely exposed under the shipwreck was buried treasure. I found multiple book and quills, a water-breathing potion, chainmail, and most importantly, a heart of the sea. But there was a problem. I was starving to death again. Luckily, I was able to smelt some kelp, which I grabbed on the way, and I called my brother Julian to give me some food. Julian and I proceeded to take the items from the buried treasure before heading back to spawn, where Julian had set up a massive base during the day I was offline, as well as a nation called the Banana Republic. Yeah, that name is kinda stupid, but don't get mad at me. He's the one who came up with it. Anyways, I went and planted a sugarcane farm and also started living in this ugly shack Julian sold to me before logging off for the day. Today, I logged on to the Insanity SMP and decided it was a good idea to actually build my copper shop. The previous day, I went to work on my shop, but I just ended up digging a small hole in the ground. Anyways, I gathered some resources, went over to the shop, and started to dig out the main area of the building. And then I saw this in chat. Another member of the SMP, Frosty Bros, decided to go over and kill my brother Julian. I didn't know why he did this, but before I could even respond, Julian decided to declare war on him. Honestly, him declaring war wasn't even a surprise at this point. Afterwards, despite still not having my shop done, I just decided to log off for the day because I didn't want to deal with this. Oh, and also Julian proceeded to walk 1,000 blocks to another server member's house, and they gave Julian full diamond armor. Today, I decided to finally finish my copper shop I had spent the past few days building. Before I started on the shop, I planted a small sugarcane farm outside the build, and as soon as I finished that, I mined out the main area of the shop. I decided it would be best to start farming honey early on in the project, so I went out to find some bees, and then I took the bees back to my shop. I then built the walls of the building, and also added the chest which the copper and honey I was selling would be in. I then took a break for the day, and only a few days later, I came back to the server to finish the project. During the days in between, I did some mining with my brother Julian, did a pillager raid with my friend Nathan, and I died during said raid. Anyways, I got back to work on the shop and started by gathering some more resources to finish with. And when I came back, I saw that Ario had been to the build, and also my bees had been stolen. Why would someone steal bees? I have no clue. Anyways, I started to feel like the shop was sort of cramped, so I decided to expand it outwards. I also replaced the floor with oak logs because in my opinion it looked nicer than what I had there before. I then dug into the wall to make a new, nicer area for the bees to be in. Despite me currently having no bees, I'd just get more in the future. I soon realized that I needed more wood, so I went out and got some more, and upon returning to the shop, I added a roof to the bees area, along with a section of the shop filled with a bunch of copper blocks, just for decoration though. And at last, it was done. The shop looked great, and all that was left was for me to get some more bees, and to let the grass grow into the bees area. Today on the Insanity SMP, I began rebuilding the center point of me and my brother Julian's nation, and I challenged Julian to a battle to decide the nation's name. Like a lot of my other videos, I started my day off by gathering more resources, starting with wood, and then I went back to my copper shop and entered the mines to gather a bunch of deep slate. Then I began rebuilding. The tower my brother Julian made a few weeks before had been burnt down by someone, so I decided to take it into my hands to rebuild the tower, and this time do a better job than before. I started with the outer pillars, but before I finished much of the project, Julian and I got into an argument over what to call our nation. My new name wasn't very good, it definitely wasn't perfect, but it was better than what Julian had in mind. Me and Julian decided that at 10 o'clock that night we would have a duel. The winner gets to have their name chosen. I had way worse armor than Julian, especially since I couldn't wear a chest plate because of my permanent elytra my powers give me. So I immediately got to work. I had plenty of crossbows and totems from a pillager raid I did a week before, and a few buckets of puffer fish which I got from the Easter event, along with a bunch of other random junk. I wanted to get fireworks to blow Julian up, so I went around trying to get gunpowder. While I was out and about hunting for creepers, I found this really nice house. The only entrance was an iron door with nothing to open it with, so I crafted a button and walked inside. Around this time, I began to start panicking. There was only an hour left before I had to face off against Julian, and I had none of the items I was planning to fight him with. So I asked someone for help. Julian had been going to war with another member of the SMP named Frosty Bros. I knew Frosty was very rich and also had nothing against me, so I went and asked him to bring me a bunch of gunpowder as well as better armor, and he agreed to help. He met up with me at the strange house I found, which was apparently built by his ally, Ario, and he gave me the items I requested, along with some fireworks. They had flight duration 20, which meant they were definitely hacked in, and Frosty had apparently stolen them from the same person I did the pillager raid with a few nights before, Nathan. Though these fireworks were hacked, I really didn't care. They worked perfectly with my elytra and allowed me to get back to my base very quickly. Once I got back, I grabbed a bunch of sugar cane, which my powers allowed me to use the sugar from to get a major speed boost, and I also used paper from the sugar cane to make fireworks, which I would shoot out of my crossbow. And then the duel began. At the end of the fight, I managed to kill Julian with 1 heart left, securing my victory. And after all of that, I could finally begin building the greatest tower on the entire Insanity SMP. Today on the Insanity SMP, I began building my own tower, which I would use as a mega base, but also as a center point for my nation, which had previously belonged to my brother, Julian. Before beginning on the project, I gathered more resources, and once I had plenty of blocks to build with, I began placing down the floor. Once that was done, I built the doors on both sides of the building, plus the front and back walls. While doing this, I had to remove the debris from Julian's tower, which had been burnt down about a week before I gained ownership of this place. I decided that I would include windows on top of the front and back door, and I also put similar windows on the other 2 sides of the building. And remember how I said, once I had plenty of blocks to build with? Well, it turns out that I used up the majority of my blocks on the first floor, so I went and got more. I tried to build the stairs to higher up floors, but something just looked wrong. I decided dark oak wood would look nice along with the deep slate bricks and spruce, but I had no idea where dark oak trees were. So I flew around with my elytra in hopes of finding a dark forest, and although I didn't find one, near a ruined portal, I did find a pillager outpost. So I fought the pillagers, stole the loot, and began taking apart the outpost to get as many dark oak logs as I could. Also, while flying back to the tower, I accidentally started a pillager raid at a nearby village, so oops. Anyways, once I got back, I built the staircase upwards and built the 2nd floor. Between building the 2nd and 3rd floors, I did a little bit of mining using my Fortune 3 pickaxe. While I was mining, I found a ridiculous amount of iron and a couple of diamonds, which I used to make an axe. When I got back to work on the 3rd floor, I saw this.
Don't test me drawing.
Wrong address. And then I built the 3rd floor the same way I did for the 2nd floor. So far, the project was looking good. Today, I logged on to the Insanity SMP and saw that someone had covered my tower's front door with cobblestone. I went inside and the first thing I saw was a message from my brother Julian telling him to look upwards. My first guess was that the signs came from Frosty Bros, who Julian had been going to war against for the past month. On the ceiling, there were a few cobblestone blocks spelling out no, and then the next sign told Julian to go upstairs, where I found a 3rd sign telling Julian that Frosty wasn't afraid of an attack. But come on, Frosty, did you really need to break my window to get the message across? I then ran upstairs to see a final message from Frosty telling Julian that he is always 1 step ahead. I was confused why Frosty had placed all these signs inside my base, but then I found out what happened. A few weeks ago, I had won a battle against Julian, where I got ownership of the nation he had started, and I got to rename it as well. Since then, Julian started a new nation under the original name, and he decided it was time to end war with Frosty. He had known Frosty was afraid of him attacking, so Julian wrote a peace treaty for Frosty Bros to sign, which would make Julian agree to not attack Frosty, and Frosty would pay for the damage caused.
Banana Republic Peace Treaty. The Banana Republic is willing to make peace with you, Frosty. But you must do the following. 1. Leave a chest buried a couple blocks below 00 must contain a extra life. 2. In the same chest you must put 2 extra diamond blocks and 1 netherite ingot. To show that you will be doing this, please sign this book and place it into a chest at the Gamers Republic. Everything in this book and war shall be ended. You may have better armor and weapons than me, but you will regret not agreeing to the treaty. Don't try me, Frosty. You cat.
The wild update is now on the Insanity SMP, so I logged onto the server and decided to check it out. I was almost out of firework rockets, so I harvested some sugarcane and made some more before I began flying in the direction of new chunks. I had two main goals: find and explore an ancient city, and also get some of the new mangrove wood. I needed to get far away from spawn, just so I could be sure that I was exploring new chunks that could have an ancient city or a mangrove swamp, and not old chunks which won't have either of those. On my way, I found a ruined nether portal, which I took the gold block from, and I also found a dark oak forest. Shortly after leaving the dark forest, I found a pillager outpost, which I decided to check out. I ended up finding the new goat horn, which is pretty cool. And there also might have been a laze there, but I didn't bother to check. I then explored a bunch of caves, but none of them ended up going anywhere. Luckily, I did end up finding a swamp. Mangrove swamps don't replace the old swamp biome, and instead are a separate biome. This meant that there weren't any mangrove trees, but there were frogs. Also, I accidentally started a pillager raid at a random village. Again. I continued exploring with my elytra, but it was a while before I found anything else that was interesting. I had been flying around for about 30 minutes, and I also died, but we aren't going to talk about that. I found a mesa just before I ran out of firework rockets. The first thing I found upon arriving was gold. In mesa biomes, gold generates much higher up. Because of this, I thought that if I found a cave, I could get a lot of gold and maybe also find an ancient city. And a few minutes later, I found a cave. The cave looked promising, so I prepared to enter before jumping in and slowly traveling downward. I found a skeleton spawner, which came with some decent loot, including gunpowder, which I could use to make more fireworks. But soon I ran into a problem. My shield broke while I was fighting some skeletons, and I didn't bring any wood with me to make a new one. Luckily, I was able to use bones from the dungeon to make bone meal, which I could then use on the flowering azaleas to get trees and get wood. I found a diamond while I was in the cave, but I didn't manage to find the deep dark, and I had to leave once my food began to run out. After I left the cave, I decided to start heading home. I found multiple villages, but that's not important. What is important is that I found another pillager outpost. I went and tried to fight the pillagers, but my shield broke for the second time. So I made a new one, before flying back to take out the pillagers. The chest had a goat horn, which means I now have two. And near the outpost, there was a cage containing an allay. I gave the allay an item, and now it will follow me. Comment what I should name it, because I need name ideas. Today, I finally finished building my mega base / tower on the Insanity SMP. But before I started, I needed to get more blocks to build with. I had collected the spruce wood a few weeks before, but I still needed deep slate. So I used the gold I mined the day before to make gold pickaxes and went over to my copper shop. Wait. Where did the lake go? Apparently Frosty Bros had remodeled the spawn area. He covered up the lake and made a better path to my shop, which looked good. Although this does mean I don't have a sugarcane farm. While I was mining deep slate, Frosty and his ally Ario came by. Frosty showed me a book he found and wanted to see if I knew what it meant. Nope. I continued mining out deep slate, now with the help of Frosty Bros, while Ario tried to decode the book. Once the deep slate was collected, I turned it into bricks and began working on the tower. Frosty offered to help with the tower, so while I built the 4th floor, he built the stairs. My plan was to give each floor the same basic design, but slowly decrease their size. Frosty also fixed the window he broke, and after I built a few floors, a wandering trader showed up selling growing mangrove propagules. I told Frosty about this and he rushed off to get his emeralds. Now we both have mangrove trees. I was nearing the end of my tower building project and my final plan was to build a large amethyst crystal surrounded by purple glass on the top. Because the stairs don't go that high, combined with me being unable to make fireworks, once I go down, I can't go back up. Frosty was off smelting the glass, so I went up to build the base of the crystal. Then I waited for a while. I was running out of food and Frosty hadn't brought me the glass, so I jumped off the tower to find some food. Wait, why isn't my elytra working? Huh? I thought Oh, hey, Frosty, I'm glad you're back. Today, I logged on to the Insanity SMP. I had recently finished building my tower and all I had left to do was decorate the inside. But before I started, my brother Julian came to ask me about something.
Hey Killian, I wanted to ask you more about the darkness thing you told me about last night.
Julian, what are you talking about?
Wait, you don't remember? You came to my base and after a long battle you warned me about something called the darkness. None of that rings a bell?
No, I still don't remember any of that.
Well, I guess I should tell you what I know. It could be important.
Okay, how about we talk about this inside though? It's starting to get dark. Julian then explained everything that happened. About a month ago, Julian had planned to pull a prank on Frosty Bros by going to his base and making slight changes to things, such as swapping his chests or making his watchtower a few blocks shorter. But on his way there, Frosty spotted him while he was looking for Julian's base. Frosty forced Julian to come with him or else he would be killed, and because he was much more powerful than him, he had no other choice but to follow. Frosty brought Julian all the way to his base and trapped him inside an obsidian box. He made him hand over all of his armor and weapons before killing him twice in a row, meaning he had no lives left and was properly dead. But a few seconds later, Julian was back inside the obsidian box, and someone had come to rescue him. Before Julian had gotten killed, someone he didn't know offered to rescue him, but only if Julian was willing to help him in return. Having no other options, Julian agreed and was now back alive. The unknown person was wearing a dark green hood and had glowing white eyes. He said he was a powerful force called the Darkness, and he brought Julian to his cabin where he had set up a trap. His plan was to use Julian as bait to lure Frosty in and kill him. It worked. Now that Frosty had been taken out, Julian returned to his base along with the Darkness. 1 month later, Julian was working on his base and hadn't thought about what had happened.
Oh hey Killian.
Apparently I had come to Julian's base, but something was off. According to Julian, my eyes were golden yellow and I was floating in the air. Julian accepted, and after a long battle, Julian won.
Wait, the darkness? Please slow down. I'm not going to remember any of this.
Julian thought for a moment, and then decided what he should do.
Give it to my cat.
Then I flew off into the distance, and Julian continued to build while thinking about what I had said. Julian quickly connected the dots between the person who had helped him and the darkness I warned him about.
So, Killian, I need you to help me stop the darkness, because I can't do it on my own, and I don't want to let the darkness destroy everything.
So, Julian, how about I get some of my friends and we'll take this guy down?
Okay, but be prepared, this guy is more powerful than you think.
Alright, I'll remember. But are you certain that guy who came to your base was actually me and not just some guy who... Julian, you go back to your base and I'll check out whatever just happened.
Okay.
I ran out of my base and found a patch of unknown black blocks. I tried breaking them, but to my surprise, they actually spread. And because I couldn't break them, I assumed that the only way to get rid of them would likely be to stop the person who is causing this. So I quickly went back into my tower, grabbed some maps from the map room, and climbed to the top of my tower, before gliding in the direction of my friend's base to find help. Previously on the Insanity SMP, my brother Julian asked me for help with stopping a newly discovered threat to the server called the Darkness. So I was flying to my friends Mr. Meow and Nathan's secret base to ask them to help us out. Hey, Nathan, Mr. Meow, I need to talk to you two. Follow me to the meeting room, it's important. Okay. So yesterday my brother gave me a warning. Julian was rescued by someone wearing a dark green hood, who also said they were something called the Darkness. And he also had glowing white eyes. Anyways, right after Julian explained this, we heard a bunch of lightning outside.
So what you're saying is that we have to go and stop the guy that helped Julian in order to get rid of the darkness blocks.
Yup. And from what I know, he's currently at Julian's base and has Julian working for him. But Julian can't do anything about it because he's just too powerful.
I'll help Julian, but I'm fine with the world dying.
So here's some useful maps. They could come in handy. This is a map of my base, nothing special, it just shows you what my base is like.
I gotcha.
This is a map of Julian's base. And this is a map of Frosty's base. But something happened there and I don't know what. So, anyways, are you two on board with helping me stop this guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Before going to Julian's base, we checked back on my base to make sure nothing happened. Wait, it can spread on its own? The darkness blocks had spread and were now covering most of my base, so we knew we had to hurry in order to stop this. Me, Nathan, and Mr. Meow arrived at my brother Julian's base. We were there to find and stop the person behind the darkness that had recently begun to take over the SMP. Fortunately, we knew that they were currently at Julian's base, specifically in the space station. The majority of Julian's base is a space station, which he had been working on for the past month. It was 300 blocks in the air at the build height limit. So, before we could stop the darkness, we had to get up there. Mr. Meow could reach the space station quickly, thanks to his ability to fly. But I was out of firework rockets, and Nathan didn't have an elytra on top of not having flight-based abilities, so we decided to take the long way up. Once we reached the space station, we looked around. Alright, everyone, try to find anything useful.
What is this?
At the front of the space station, we found a strange room, with a map of Frosty Bro's base in the middle. The room was connected to an infinite water generator and a lava farm. We thought we looked everywhere, but we didn't find anything besides that room, so I asked Nathan to see if we missed something.
There's something down here.
Apparently we had missed a room lower down, and in the room was the darkness.
Prepare to die.
You really think only you two could defeat me?
Wait, what do you mean, two? There's three of us.
Nathan, where did you get your armor?
What do you mean?
You know exactly what I'm talking about. You created that armor using my power.
Do you have any idea what he means by this?
Dude, I have no idea.
Nathan attacked.
Somehow the darkness managed to use Nathan's armor to take control of him. And although we weren't outnumbered, winning a 3v1 against the darkness would be hard. And a 2v2 would be almost impossible with how strong he is.
Run, Killian!
I'll meet you at the base. Mr. Meow stayed back and fought off Nathan and the darkness, allowing me to escape. Oh, hey Meow, how did you even make it here that fast?
I can go invisible. I vanished as soon as you left, and they just lost track of me.
Anyways, what do we do now?
I don't know.
How about I'll get Frosty because he's really strong and is really rich, and he could definitely help us with this.
Okay, yeah, sure. You can
Alright.
do that.
See ya! The darkness on the Insanity SMP has been getting worse, so I asked one of the most powerful members on the server, Frosty Bros, for help. But once I reached his base, I saw that the darkness was already there and that my map had updated. Hey, Frosty Bros.
Killian?
So, I was going to ask if you could help with a little bit of a darkness problem at my base, but you appear to be in a predicament yourself.
Yes, whatever this is, it's obviously dangerous. Do you have any idea why it's here or what it's even about?
Julian actually seems to know, so a few days ago apparently I had appeared at Julian's house.
At first, I didn't know if I could believe you or not because this story sounds so far-stretched. But once you mentioned that one guy in the green hoodie, yeah, he's very familiar to me.
Yeah, but anyways, I met up with a few of my friends, Nathan and Mr. Meow. So me and Mr. Meow had to retreat.
Wait, the armor?
Yeah.
I use a sword that came from Nathan. This explains so much. Pepsi also got armor from Nathan. But just the other day, Pepsi was also controlled by the darkness.
And we need to stop this guy if we want to stop the darkness from continuing.
Yeah, this is really serious.
Also, my base is being consumed by darkness blocks as we speak, so that's just great.
Honestly, I didn't really think it would touch my base. Yeah, it's looking pretty rough right now.
What we need to do is figure out how to stop that guy and then just take him out.
Yeah, but that's kind of hard when he can control time. I mean, basically, he probably already knows what we're gonna do before we can even see it happening. But I do know something that can help. Well, yeah, you know that creepy little guy in the green hood? I think I know where he lives.
Frosty Bros had given me a vital piece of information for stopping the darkness which had been taking over the Insanity SMP. Frosty Bros knew where the darkness's base was.
He lives right back here. Actually, it's surprisingly close to me. So no duh, I had to check it out. This cabin used to be smaller, but now it's double its size and it's compounded. But luckily for me, I can just kind of fly over. Okay, I opened the gates for you. I think the coast is clear for now, but we should try to get out of here as soon as possible.
In the cabin, we found plenty of valuable items, such as netherite scraps or strength potion, and a lot of interesting stuff, such as an outdated map of Frosty's base. But we couldn't seem to find anything actually useful for stopping the darkness. It feels like there should be something here. Nope, there's not. Until Frosty got the idea to rip up the carpet.
What's this? Man, this is really sketchy. Hold up, there's a sign. This is the only place I can't control time. It is stuck in one timeline. This is the old version of his base. Yeah, this is what it used to look like. Killian, we can defeat him here. He can't control time here.
I'm gonna head back to the space station to try to trap the darkness.
Okay, good luck. I'll fly up there if anything goes wrong.
For the Banana Republic. Hope this works. Come check this out. I finished building the armory.
Looks good.
Now.
Did you really think you could trap someone who can see through time?
Glad I put blast protection on this armor.
Julian, how dare you betray me? Don't think you're getting away. I am going to be your worst nightmare.
We don't have enough water for cooling. I can fire the laser at the Gamers Republic to destroy a ton of darkness blocks and therefore weaken him. But it is guaranteed to blow up on us. Yet I don't think we have another option. Get back. Carl. What happened, was that you? Wait, where'd the darkness go? I thought he would have reversed time by now.